Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I have a lineup of absolutely horrifying subscriber-submitted experiences. Before we jump into them, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter and are appreciated. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we?
Hey Jeff, my name is LS, and you can share this if you'd like, even though it isn't exciting and long. I'm 36 now. At the time my sighting happened, I'm thinking it was about 12 to 14 years ago, my dad had the sighting with me. He has since passed, and I live in my old childhood home, now where the sighting occurred. So it's late one night, around 2 in the morning. I happened to be staying with my dad that night. We were both awoken by what sounded like an infant newborn screaming at the top of their lungs. Only the sound we heard also literally vibrated our insides. It was so loud it should have hurt our ears, but somehow it didn't. We could tell the sound was coming from the shed behind the house, where we parked the tractor and one of his trucks. We stood at the back door, scared, whispering to each other what we thought it could be. Sound never stops, mind you. It had been about 5 minutes at this point since we first awoke. We turn on the floodlight on the back of the house. The noise keeps going. We finally work up the nerve to step out onto the deck, with me and him both 12-gauge shotguns, double-aught buck, aimed toward the shed. Soon as we step out, the noise stops. About 10 seconds after we step out, something absolutely massive and pitch black in color bounds from the shed into the woods in about 3 or 4 leaps. Now the woods are at least 45 to 50 yards from the shed. It was so fast it seemed unnatural. Also, we made out that the front stood higher than the rear of the animal. It stayed on all fours the whole time we saw it. It did have a medium-length tail. Didn't see the eyes. It moved so fast it was unreal and didn't make out much. And I live in the woods, so it's dark even with a floodlight in Clark County, Alabama. I can tell you this, it was no black bear. I've seen them. This thing was massive. It was no panther. Again, way too big. Also, I don't know Bigfoot running on all fours, so I'm thinking Dogman. I also hear massive, deep howling from the woods. It was not a coyote. I've been around them my whole life and know what they sound like. I still hear the howling to this day at night, deep in the woods. It sounds massive. I also hear weird ape canine sounds in the woods. Also, paranormal things have happened around here. Anyway, that's my one time I actually saw this creature. I hear it several times a year, though. Thanks for your time. Also, I found big canine tracks. I'm adding this a few days later. My dad and I, before we went out, stood there and tried our best to try to think of what it could be. So many things went through our minds as we stood there whispering to each other and listening to this god-awful sound. It should have been deafening, but it wasn't. Like I said, it literally vibrated our insides. So weird and hard to explain. It didn't hurt though, it actually felt kind of relaxing in a very weird way. The vibrating, but God, was it scary sounding. The best thing we could think before stepping onto the deck was, I said, "Dad, it's got to be some sort of drug addict or some lady has left her baby that didn't want it and had just left it under our shed with a large electronic megaphone by the newborn's mouth as it screamed and wailed for her." The closest thing I could think of it sounding like. Dad agreed, and we stepped out, even though we both knew it was not a human baby. Today's second subscriber, Alabama Encounter. Hello, Jeff. I was born and raised in the small town of Thomasville, Alabama, and I've lived there my entire life. I am 59 years old, and I am a retired registered nurse. I grew up on a dirt road in an old house that my great-grandfather built. There was thick woods behind the house and across the dirt road in front of the house. This land is still owned by my family. The old house sadly burned down when lightning struck it years ago. I had 2 younger brothers and 2 sisters. We would play for hours on end in these woods on both sides of the road. We would even venture out for a considerable distance to get to the creek that was in the middle of these woods, so we could collect arrowheads and beads that we would find along the creek. One summery day, all of us and 2 of my cousins were playing hide-and-seek across the road at the edge of the somewhat woods. There had been one time an old house that belonged to my great-aunt situated here, but it had been torn down for many years, and all the debris and bricks from this house were still piled up with several feet of brick and broken blocks sitting at the top of the pile. I was 8 years old. I was it, and I had counted to 50 while all the children hid. I leaned against some of the bricks facing toward the road with my head down while counting. When I reached 50, I ran forward about 40 or so feet and looked around. I didn't see any signs of anyone, so I turned around and ran back toward the brick pile. I looked out toward the wood line past the bricks, and something caught my eye at the very top of this pile. I was completely horrified to see the face of something that had jet black, long, disheveled hair and black hair on its face, as well as its beard and hair above its top lip. Its eyes were open very wide and were very big, and this thing was staring right at me into my eyes. His eyes looked as black as its hair. I was so scared I couldn't move. I kept my eyes on it the whole time, just frozen standing there. After what seemed like an eternity, I watched as this face very slowly eased itself down behind this brick pile, and when I could no longer see anything of it, I came to my senses and turned around and ran as fast as my little feet could carry me toward my house. As it happens, all of the other children had decided to go across the road and hide, so that I would have a harder time finding them. I never said anything to my mother about what I saw. As a matter of fact, I never told anybody about my encounter until fairly recent. I think my fears were just so overwhelming that I couldn't bring myself to talk about it. As far as I remember, I never did go near that part of the woods again until I was a teenager. I know that for a fact that it wasn't a mean trick by my mother or father or by my uncle or aunt. Both men were gone to work, and my mom and aunt were never the type of people to do a prank like that. My mom was in the kitchen cooking when I ran into the house. I still don't know what it was that I saw. Now that I'm grown and know what scientists proclaim a Neanderthal to look like, that's the closest thing I have ever seen to what I saw that day at the edge of the woods. A little email between us was, do you remember of any clothing or anything like that? I don't remember seeing any type of clothing. All I could see was its head and top part of its neck. Today's third subscriber encounter from Alabama. Now, I could have included this in the paranormal side nighttime video, but As of right now, I kind of just want to keep all of the state-by-state encounters from subscribers sent to me. So this fits right in, actually. So let's get into it. My Ouija board story, fall of 1992, outside of Montgomery, Alabama. I was 14 years old at the time. I was a new kid in town, and the girl who was my best friend was Jennifer. She had a Ouija board, and I had her over at my home one day when my parents weren't home. We broke the Ouija board out. We lit candles and started to play. I asked the spirit to flicker the candle flames and then to make my cat meow. Both things happened. It got eerie as we asked questions, and when we said goodbye, the crazy things started happening. As we packed up, it was getting pretty dark. First started to walk her home through the field. There was light on the power line along the front drive beside some kudzu. We got halfway through the field, almost to her house, and we looked at the light pole. Maybe 6 feet in front of the pole in kudzu, there were shadow figures just standing there watching us. I saw a man around 6 feet tall, and she saw a large dog sitting beside him. We focused on the same man, and we turned around and ran back to my house. We got inside the door, and we closed the door, and as I'm closing it, the porch light blows, and then a heavy force pushes on the door, trying to get inside. I then grab my mother's Bible and start to pray very hard for a minute, asking for protection. Then this stray cat shows up meowing on the porch. I bring it into the house and grab some food for it. My cat goes nuts trying to attack it while it's in my hands. We then leave with the stray cat to go back to her house. The stray stays outside of her window meowing all night long, and come morning both the cat and the little plastic bowl of food had vanished. No trace was ever seen of the cat again. About 10 years later, I learned the real identity of the spirit we had been talking with. Turns out he was one of the most powerful, if not most powerful, demon in hell. He was a former angel and ruler of lust and the prince of hell. I dare not say the name or reference it too closely because he has been aware of me since I was 14. But while I was still a teenager, I used the board and wrote a paper once more after I had moved to Tennessee, and another cat showed up at my door. I am now extremely cautious about many things, and once in a while I will get an odd feeling of something lingering. Then I have to do a cleansing process and ask for help from the archangels to solidify the protection. I've seen many things that I cannot explain in my life, and I don't try chasing them to get a solid explanation of proof. I trust my gut feeling and use my instincts to guide me through. I don't do any ghost hunting because things are attracted to me because of the contact I had made so long ago. Today's fourth subscriber Alabama encounter. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and the circumstances around my encounter. My real name is Redacted. My dad's name was Redacted. He worked at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. If you have access to government information, you may be able to find some things out about him. I myself have tried to find out info on him, but it always leads to dead ends. If you do find out exactly what he did, you don't have to disclose the information, just wanted to give you tangibles to work with. We moved from Huntsville to Arab, Alabama. My mom's name was Redacted. She died when I was 5. My dad hired a housekeeper. I only remember her as Miss Katie. We then moved from Arab to Union Grove. My dad couldn't stay in the home my mom died at. Please do not use real names. I trust you, Jeffrey, with this information because I've watched your channel for some time now, and you've always respected anonymity of those who asked. I have watched you because I wanted to know if anyone out there has ever experienced similar events, as I did. Also, I have not told my story to many less than 10. My children and their spouses know about it, and recently I told my sister. Listening to other encounters on your channel gave me the strength to tell my sister. I have learned about Operation Paperclip. I know German scientists were there. They were called the Von Braun Group. I am sure my dad worked with some of these people. Yeah, they were Nazis. I didn't find out about this until after my dad had passed away and it was made public. So here goes. We lived in Marshall County, a very small town. We didn't live close to this town, but we're still considered part of it. So that you can get a picture of what it was like, we lived on a long dirt road with only 5 houses spread out in the area. All the houses were built on the same side of the road. Across the street and behind us were woods. Also, there was a huge pasture beside the wooded area, across and down from our house. We had the only 2-story home on that road. Why this detail is relevant will make more sense about my encounter. The land was 2-tier, big backyard and sizable front. There was a rock wall with flower beds and steps to the upper tier in the yard. Fast forward 2 or 3 months later, my dad had gotten some chickens, and in the mornings, when we would go out to feed and water them, the chickens would be dead. They were inside the chicken coop with the latch on to keep the wildlife from getting into them. There was something like 100 chickens, and they were being taken and sometimes, as I said, dead. I remember one morning going out with the housekeeper and the chickens with their insides pulled out inside the coop while the others were missing/gone. It was then decided it was a neighbor's tomcat who was doing this, so the neighbor and my brother decided to hunt the cat down and shoot it. During this, I was sent inside because, of course, I was crying and told my dad not to let them do this. I'd always loved animals, and I believe what they were doing was wrong. Then a week goes by and more chickens are being killed and disappearing. Then it was decided during the second week to go ahead and kill the rest of the chickens before there were nothing left. Some were not fully grown yet, and were only half size of the older ones. Yet the decision was still made. There was a predator out there that was able to get into them, and no one could figure out what was going on, so it was best to harvest them before none of them were left. A week or 2 later, and I started to hear what I thought were dogs howling outside near or in our front yard. I was awakened almost every night. It wasn't just one howl, but many, like it was a pack of them. I also knew nobody had dogs anywhere on our street. Dogs were a luxury back in 1966. It was nothing like today, where a lot of people have dogs or many dogs. This is where my encounter differs. I woke up to the howling outside again, but this time was different from the other nights. There was a wall heater in my room, and the red coils in the heater were bright red, and the whole room glowed. The room was so hot, I got up to turn it down. The closer I moved toward it, the hotter it seemed to become. The heat was so intense, I could not get near it. It looked like the whole wall was on fire. The red light was not natural at all. I moved to the side of my room, away from the heat. I just stood there for a while. I was scared and didn't know what I was supposed to do. I jumped into the bed beside my sister and threw the sheet over my head. Now it wasn't just the howling, but my room was now unbearably hot and glowing red. This continued for a few nights. The howling outside and the wall glowing red. The heat makes it so hot, and never being able to get close enough to turn it down. After the 3rd night of hot glowing red wall, I asked my dad if he was coming into our room and turning our heat up while we were sleeping. He said no. Then I asked Miss Katie if she had been in our bedroom that night also. She said no. I told them it was coming on at night and making the room really hot. My dad said, "You know it will come on by itself if it gets cold in your room." So the 6-year-old genius that I was decided to turn the heater off. And so I did. That night, no red glow or horrible heat to wake me up. Or the next night, I was diligent in making sure the heater was off every night. I made sure the dial was turned all the way to the left. 3rd night, double-checked the dial. Yep, in the off position. I lied down and fell asleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, I was hearing the howling again. The wall was glowing red, It felt hotter than the other times. I knew I had turned the heater off, so I got up to see if it had been turned on somehow. As I moved toward the wall, I couldn't get near it. Again, it was so hot. It also burned my face, my arm, and hand where I had tried to block my face from the heat. I bent down to see if I could at least see the dial, and there was no checking it. It was just too hot. The howling seemed to grow louder. It sounded like it was right outside my window. I saw movement. In the window, I started to straighten back up. The curtains were only partially open. I couldn't move. I was so scared. So I tilted my head a little to the side so I could see if something was really by our window. As I leaned closer, I thought it was probably just my reflection. Then the yellow eyes were visible, and the teeth, very large teeth. I could see its claws resting on the outside windowsill. Its ears were like those of a shepherd dog, but more pointy. It seemed like we were looking at each other for a very long time. What caused me to run was he seemed to smile at me. It was not a smile that was a, "Hey, nice to meet you." It was as if he was letting me know he had seen me, and he knew I had seen him. I then ran to the side of my bed, covered myself completely, and peeked out. He was still standing there in the window. His head seemed to be turned slightly, as if he was trying to peek over at me. As I was still looking at it, I started looking around my room. There was now a red grid. It was completely surrounded all four walls of our room. At the time, I thought it was the red fence. It also overlaid the glowing red wall. At first, I thought it was part of the red glow, that I was going to be cooked. As I got older, I figured out it was a grid of some type. Also, to my shame, my babysitter was sleeping by the window. I didn't pull her away from the window. I just hid under my covers, looking out once in a while, hoping this complete nightmare would just go away. I did fear it was going to come through the window. I don't know where it went. I do know the window was on the second level. It vanished and was gone, just as quiet as when it appeared. The red grid came back for a few nights. The howling became distant and then completely stopped. I started to have night terrors after that. To this day, my kids know that if I wake up, to stand at a distance. They have received a phone, remote control, and other items being launched at them. Nightmares of this thing standing over and physically holding my wrists are common. I get to see him very clearly. What makes them so bad is coming out of the sleep and opening my eyes. There is a moment where it is there. I punch at it to keep it away from me, and then it's gone. My dad remarried. She was a beautiful woman. She hated where we lived and moved us all back to Huntsville, where I never heard or saw anything. When I was 12, we moved to Washington State. Before anyone asks, nope, we never saw or smelled or heard Bigfoot. In fact, up here, have not run into what is referred to as Dogman or Bigfoot, though I have seen other weird things. Thanks for listening, Jeff. Today's final Alabama encounter from subscribers. Hey Jeff, thank you for taking time out to hear my encounter. Zach is my name and you can use it, that's just fine. I'm 29 now and this happened when I was 9, maybe 10. But before I get into it, I want to give you a small layout of the property and small details of the house. My mom's parents used to have a mid-sized 2-story home with about 30 to 40 acres of land in Summerdale, Alabama. Had a lot of farm animals, chickens, peacocks, horses, roosters, you name it. The backyard had pecan trees and an old barn used to keep the horses in. It was old and had a tin roof on it. Why I give you this info of the barn will lead up to what I'm going to share. One weekend I wanted to stay the night with my grandparents, as I usually did once or twice a month. My mom and dad were no longer together, so I had to share time between them. When I did stay with my mom, I would always want to go see my grandparents. One weekend, I stayed the night. I had just finished with a late-night snack and was going back to the kitchen to put my dirty dishes away and get ready for bed. Now in the kitchen, there's a window above the sink with a light on above the window. At first, movement in the corner of my eye, so I looked out the window. I could see one of the trees. The peacocks were acting up, flying up out of the tree they usually slept in, so I go outside thinking maybe they were spooked by something. Maybe an owl, or they saw a coyote, so I grab my BB gun and a flashlight and go out. My grandparents were already upstairs getting ready for bed, and my grandpa was on his breathing machine, so me being the only other male, I told him I'm going outside to see why the peacocks are acting up. He told me to hurry back inside, it's late and bedtime. So I told him no problem, I'll go outside, and I go out the back door, which is a glass sliding door. I walk out, usually the dog, whose name is Jack. He's a Great Dane, he's my best friend. Usually would be at the door, and if he wasn't, he would come running, but this time he didn't. I was concerned. There's a light near the barn, so the backyard is lit up pretty decently. I call for Jack, and nothing. After I call his name, I heard movement in the tree next to the barn. That was also close to the tree, so I turned my flashlight on it and began to slowly walk to the backyard. Now usually Jack would have come running, so I call him again and nothing. I stop talking and begin to worry, thinking something has happened to him. Tears rolled on my face. After a few minutes I realize the peacocks are all on the ground. They're usually up in the trees sleeping. And then I hear a rooster flopping around like a madman in the same tree they would all sleep in. Then nothing. It was dead quiet at this point. All the animals were scattered and ran. This wasn't right. I was telling myself I've never seen or heard anything like this. I'm standing here confused, fear just filling my body, and I don't know why I yell for the dog Jack, and this time I see him about 50 yards come running from the other side of the barn. I go walk up to him. He runs past me and runs into the old green house that my grandma uses for her flowers. This is when I realize something is not right. Then I hear this deep, deep growl. I'm struck with fear as I can't even move. I can hardly breathe at this point. To turn around was like I was frozen in a block of ice, flashlight and BB gun still in my hands, but I couldn't lift them. I couldn't understand what was going on. Finally, I'm able to turn, and I do. When I turn around, I don't see anything. I turn the light on, and still looking. Oh man, I'm tearing up as I type this. So I keep looking, and then I hear a noise in the tree and shine my light to see. And that's when I saw it. About 20 to 30 feet in the tree. At first, I saw a white/grayish hump. Then it began to move, and now I'm seeing what now could tell was the back and shoulders. Then its right ear. I'm freaking out as it's big. It has to be bigger than anything I've ever seen, and it looks like a coyote. As it finishes and it turns, I see its face. If you've ever seen the werewolf of Fever Swamp on Goosebumps, this thing's face looked like that werewolf's face. As I shine the light onto it, it looks at me with these yellow eyes. My body is stiff as a board. I felt so empty on inside. This thing lifted its left arm, and then its left hand had one of the roosters, already dead as it does. It continues to look at me. I'm shaking, and as I'm looking, my light goes out. That's when I snap out of it and begin beating the light to come back on. As I do, I hear that growl once again. I look up. I barely can see it. It begins to shift its body, completely facing me. I hit the light one more time against my thigh, and it comes back on. I shine it back up at this thing. It's now looking at me with a grin on its face. Now when I say grin, I mean the Grinch who stole Christmas grin. That's when I aim my BB gun. What made me do this, I don't know, but as soon as I did, this thing jumps from the tree onto the roof of the barn. It's a tin roof. When it landed, it sounded like someone dropped a load of bricks at once. Just this big, god-awful boom. Then it hits the ground, and at this point, there's nothing. I'm shining my light all around. I'm frozen in fear as I want to walk closer to look, but I can't. Then I hear this heavy breathing that turns into a growl. This growl, I felt like it was rattling my insides to pieces. I'm shining my light all around the barn, through the doorway, to the rooftop, and I can't see it, but that's when I shine it to the side of the barn that's straight in front of me, and that's when I see this thing's left hand and left side of its face just looking at me. It ducks back behind the barn. I begin to back up, knowing this is not right. This can't be real. As I begin to back away, it pops its head and hand out again. This time it puts its hand on the barn, and then it completely steps out from behind. It's standing on two legs with this evil grin. I'm so scared I begin crying out of control. I have no control of my body. I can't move. I'm trying to scream, but my mouth won't open. That's when I see it lift its right arm. It waves at me. I know nobody's gonna believe this, but I swear on my own family's lives it waved as I'm seeing its waves, and lays the dead rooster on the ground, then runs, still on two legs. After it ran off, I go back inside and run to my room. My grandparents asked me what's wrong. I told them that I saw a monster. They wouldn't have believed me if I told them what I saw. And till this, I've hardly told anyone, and the ones I've told just blew me off as a little kid being afraid of the dark. Next email from Zach. Jeff, hope your recovery is going well. Want to thank you for this great channel and uploads. In Fruitdale, Alabama, my dad will lease this hunting property for the season. This hunting season, I decided to go onto the property and help him get it ready for deer season. As a kid, before my childhood encounter that I shared with you just a while back, I would go with him every season and help with the tractor and help chop limbs down and put out corn, something my dad and I used to get some time away and enjoy wildlife that so many of us don't take time to enjoy and truly realize how beautiful life really is. But just the other day I went alone and wanted to check out the property since it's almost time to get it prepped. I hop out of my truck and walk probably a half a mile into the property. At this point, I'm kind of deep in the woods. The open area we use for hunting is probably 500 yards back or so, but like I've always done, I like to walk further and just see how it is around where I hunt. Plus, the walk helps me with my anxiety. I'm coming up the hill that was in the open and was made of red dirt. I ran up the hill and sat down on the red dirt hill. I began to just enjoy the fresh air, the sound of the birds, the whole walk. It was active, and I never had weird feelings or smelled anything. I paid very close attention to your uploads. The only thing I noticed were claw marks on some of the trees. They were fairly wide. I could see 4 fingers, like downward strokes, and slight fifth, where I'd guess a thumb would be. The others' trees, it seemed more slanted and not straight down. So, like I was saying, my trip into the woods was smooth sailing, just a couple of trees with those claw marks. And also, let me say this. I did have my .416 Ruger Hawkeye African rifle. I just bought it and planned on breaking it in. After my childhood encounter, it made me want to always be prepared, but never to go hunting for one. So I just want to clear the air. I was not out trying to hunt one, but I do keep a big rifle with me just to be safe. I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. I'm sitting on the hill with my rifle, and as I'm sitting, and this is after 20 minutes of relaxing, it goes dead quiet. I notice this, but don't freak out. I begin to just slowly look around, and behind me, my rifle is loaded with safety on. I don't lift the rifle. I just keep it to my side, as I'm not trying to send the wrong message if this happens to be a Dogman. So I stand up and have my rifle still by my side. I look to my left, and off about 50 yards I see this black figure crouched down beside a tree. And how I could tell is the area was open and had little bits of tree and brush around, so that black spot was totally out of place, and as I look at this thing, it lets out a deep, deep gurgle-like sound. And this is when the story turns into something I know nobody's going to believe, but I swear on my own soul that it is true. Like I was saying, as I looked at it and it made the sound, it began to slowly walk on all fours my way, and I remained still because I don't want to send any messages. So as it makes its way, I say out loud, "If you think I'm here to harm you, I'm not. I'm just here checking on my hunting property." That's when it stops, crouches back down on its back legs. And when I say legs, these were no dog-like legs. They look more like human. And I began to notice yellow eyes. The first thing I think is Dogman. Then I see it has no tail, but as this thing stops and crouches down, it tilts its head. And with a deep, deep voice and serious look in its eyes, it asks me, "Why aren't you running?" Jeff, when I say my whole body went limp and felt like everything in my soul was gone, that's how I felt. And with a stutter, I reply, "Because I know you and your kind, and I'm not here to harm you. I believe we can be at peace." It just looks at me, begins sniffing the air, tilts its head, then straightens back and says to me, "You have no fear of me." I think to myself and realize I can sense my emotions. I tell him, "If you wanted me dead, you would have killed me." Jeff, I know this is a lot to hear and probably find truth, but I am dead serious all of this happened. I don't troll and I don't take this stuff as a joke. But after I said all that, it stands up, and this thing's easily 7 to 8 feet tall. It stands and says to me, "Protect us," then trots back into the woods. This all still feels like a dream or a movie. This is my second encounter in 20 years, and each one has been harmless. I don't know if it's certain people or what, but I still can't wrap my head around this last encounter. Update email. Just so everyone knows, there's a lot to cover and a lot to bring back up. I'm typing this on my phone, so I apologize if a word or anything gets left out. I'm also shaking some while I share this, but okay. As you and everyone knows, that I recently had a run-in with what I will call a werewolf, and found out that he could speak shortly after speaking to you, Jeff, on your show. It was about a week or two later, and I started seeing less of him. And then one day, nothing. I was a little nervous because I don't know what happened. I was worried that he turned against me and now either planning to hunt me or who knows what. Few days go by, still nothing. Woods sound alive, and well, don't see any dead animals, don't smell anything, don't see prints. It was like he was never around. I leave, come back the next day, same thing. Everything is normal. I make my way around my truck to get my supplies out and begin to make my way to the hunting spots to begin setting up the houses to hunt out of. My dad and I built them, and once we built them, we bring them, set them up. On this day, I was alone, drove my truck to the spot, and backed the truck up to the post holes. That way I could drop them right in with the truck helping me hold the house up. After 20 minutes of hell getting the house set up and in the holes, I sit on the tailgate of my truck and catch a breather, sitting there about sweating and chugging some water like it was no tomorrow. I notice how quiet it is. I look around. I don't see or hear anything. Based off of my previous experiences, I'm thinking, okay, maybe something's back. So I look around with caution. I didn't have my .416 with me this time. All I had was my AR-15. Because of how crazy things have gotten in the world, I only had it for safety reasons. But as I was saying, I was looking around and couldn't see anything. That's when I gradually began to smell a strong odor of dead animal wet dog. Now I know what people mean by what the odor smell is, because it's bad. But, as I said, I smelt that odor, kept looking around. I couldn't see anything or hear anything. But then it dawned on me that, hey, people said Dogman have a smell, and right when I have that thought in my mind, I hear a faint growl noise coming from my rear. At this point, that's all behind me is the house I had just put up, and then woods. I turn around, duck down, and squat so I can look past the house and see if anything's behind it in the woods, and that's when I see a big lab gold coat colored German Shepherd head halfway sticking out from the tree. Soon as I saw it, it ducked behind the tree. I'm thinking to myself, that's not the creature I saw before. That don't even look like him. What is that? I looked nothing like him or the one I saw as a child, so I stay in the crouched position, staying focused on that one spot. Then I hear a sound from my left. Now to my left is nothing but a small open field. Because of my angle and direction I'm already facing, there's probably about 200 yards of open field. On my right is a trail leading out of the open area. Nothing but woods, because how I was set up, I was at an angle that was facing more right than left, so I could get a clear all-around view of the open field. So I wanted to kind of clear that up and help understand the layout. But as I heard the noise and looked to my left, I saw a black spot crouch down on all fours, trying to stay low to the ground. And as soon as I saw it, it stopped moving, and then the one in the woods began to growl. And this time, even louder. I began thinking really fast in my head that I need to stay calm and remember how to use my instincts. Half my family comes from military background, and they taught me a lot. And one is to always keep your head up, mind clear, and swallow my fear. But as this one growled, I turned my eyes to it, quickly adjust back on the other. That's when I catch it making again. And at this point, I know what's going on. But my gun is in the truck in the back seat. But I remember that my windows are open, and that if I hop out of the bed, they're going to pounce. So I stay as calm, still crouched down. My truck is lifted, so I am fairly decent off the ground. So it would take me 1 or 2 extra seconds if I hop down. And I knew that I couldn't waste a second if I'm going to make a move at this moment. I knew it was going to take the training I had been given and taught myself. I'm on the bed of the truck trying to plan this out. The one from behind the tree steps out and looks at me with a grin. It seems we are only 25 yards apart. It's not very far, and yes, it's definitely a male, if you know what I mean. As it steps out, it goes from a grin to making a growling noise again. Then it darts to my right through a small patch of trees, crosses the trail into the other tree line. Now they are on my left and right at this point. So I look back at the other one, and it's now moved more in the middle of the field and more in front of the truck. At this point, still staying low to the ground, I'm confused. Not knowing what's going on, I begin to hear movement to my left. Same one that just went into the woods. As I look to my left, the one in front of me stands up and makes a loud growl howl noise and runs in my direction. As soon as it begins to run straight at me, I jump slide across the top of my truck into the passenger seat, because like I said, the windows were open, keys are still in the ignition. I crank it enough to power the windows to roll them up. By the time I had the windows halfway up, the one running was at my hood of the truck. This thing cleared 100 yards easily within seconds, enough to where I didn't even get my windows completely rolled up. It just stops and puts its hand/paw on the hood of my truck. This is early afternoon, so I'm getting a clear as day look at this thing. Wasn't bulky, it was lean. This one had a dark brown color to it. The other one had a golden brownish color, like a lab. golden tannish colored fur, wasn't thick, the face like a mixture of a German shepherd / wolf, if that makes any sense. The hands were more like paws and hands mixed together. As it stood there, it started sniffing the air, looking around. Then it turns its head to the right, which is my left, and here comes the other one walking on all fours. I look down into the floorboard, grab my AR, look back up. And as soon as I look up, it's looking at me, and the look in its eyes are like, I don't know what you just did, but I'm about to find out. That's when I pull the charging handle. As soon as I do this, it lets out a growl, hauls to my passenger side window quarter, and shoves its face into the window. As soon as this one does that, the other one comes from behind and smacks the quarter window and sends cracks all through it. And the one in front of me raises its arms to swing at the window. That's when I let off 2 shots at this thing. I hit it because it let out this god-awful scream yelp sound, and the other must have ran because I turned back and it was gone. Jeff, I don't know, but all this started happening as soon as the first creature, the one I nicknamed Buddy, left. I don't know where he is, but I wish he was back. Since then, I haven't been back, but recently I was at a gas station not too far from my property, and while I was getting a drink, I noticed an older Native American. He would always stare at me, not creepy looking really, but would just have a smile on his face. He finishes getting his stuff and goes out to the checkout line. I finish what I'm getting, then make my way to the line. I'm feeling like I know him, but I've seen him before. He goes and walks out and turns his head, then does this tilt like to say hello, but with a grin or smile. I pay for my stuff, make my way back out to my truck. Now, just to make it clear, this is probably 3 weeks after the Dogman nightmare and probably 4 weeks since I saw the first one that I nicknamed Buddy. But as I'm going back to the truck, I see the old man getting into his truck, and when I saw him getting in, I noticed a totem wolf symbol around his neck. I don't know what happened, but I got a big flood of curiosity and had to ask him if he knows anything or seen anything. As I walk up to him, I notice that he has a wolf in the truck with him. It was a beautiful timber wolf. He sees me walk up. I wave and say hello. He says, "Hello, young man." I introduce myself to him. He looks at me and goes with a giggle, says, "You can call me Chief." I ask him, "Chief, do you believe in what some call werewolves or what they call Dogman?" He looks at me and says, "You do, don't you, boy?" And I said yes, and that I believe not. All of them are evil or mean harm. He smiles and says, "You have been welcomed, haven't you?" I say, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The spirit of the wolf is a pure thing. Those who are pure at heart find peace with the guardians of the land. Some are guardians, while some walk as the damned upon our land." My body goes numb as I'm floored that I think I've found my answers I've been looking for. I tell him not too long ago I came across a werewolf and it spoke to me and said, "Protect us," but lately haven't seen him since. I told him everything that went on between myself and the creature. He tells me that you are pure of heart and have a spirit of a wolf, and he is rubbing his wolf totem on his necklace. Jeff, there's a lot more I have to share with you. This is not all of the story. There's way more after that. I went to the Native American's home. He has shared so much with me, and I think I found the truth to a lot of questions when it comes to the Dogman / werewolf. I'm going to share more with you and everyone who wants answers as well on the channel. I'm speaking more with him sometime soon, but till then I do have a lot to share with you. Next update, I'm sharing this with you. Jeff, as much as I do have to share, I would like to talk on your channel. I really would, but I'm going to share this with you. 2 weeks ago, I decided to hit up my friend, who I haven't seen in about a month. I give him a call and ask how he's been, And if he's got some time to hang out, he tells me, sure man, head over. I pull up, get out, we shake hands, walk into his house and sit down, begin to chit chat with one another, and ask if he asks if I want a cold one. I tell him, I don't really drink. He laughs and says, you still don't care about the old cold one, do you? I said, nope, party days drained me of that. He laughs and says, yeah, you were one for knowing how to party back then. So after the BS around, we walk out to his backyard. His backyard's big, at least 200 yards, just going straight back and probably over 50 yards wide. And off to the right, when walking out his back door, about 40 yards, is his workshop. And then to the left, off further down, is his barn. It's a mid-sized, nothing big, just enough room for a few horses, which he only has one. Further down at the end of his yard is his fenced-off region where he keeps his horse when he lets him out. Now, reason why I give you this info is to help give an image of the layout to the story I'm going to share with you and your listeners. So we're on the back porch. He has a Great Dane named Rebel. Beautiful and huge. We're hanging out on the back porch, and he asks me, really quick, guys, I'm not making the mistakes when I'm reading this. He's using talk text, so it is discombobulated. So I apologize right now when I said before, but then I quickly realized that it was beautiful. That wasn't my mistake. It wasn't his either, really, because he's using talk text, but I just wanted to clear that up. He has a Great Dane named Rebel. Beautiful and huge. We're hanging out on the back porch and asks me if I didn't mind if I let Rebel out because he was on the back screen door wanting to be let out. I tell him sure. So I let Rebel out, and he does his normal thing, runs into the yard, does his business. We're still standing there talking. That's when this big dog is frozen in place, looking down toward the end of the yard where his horse is, and begins to bark. And my friend names I'm not going to give out for privacy reasons, but we'll just call him Joe. I say, Joe, what you got around here that got Rebel all hyped up? Because usually Rebel is chill and not this hyped up. He tells me, man, I had to run off damn coyote the other day, or a few of them. And I go, coyotes? Since when? He says, the other day. He says, a couple black figures kind of halfway out the tree line sniffing the ground, and I had to get the gun and shoot off a warning shot. I go, did you get a good look at them? He says, not really. They were so dark that it was hard for me to get a clear view. Plus, I was up here near the house, and I asked him, was your horse out? He said, no. I had put him up, and he said it was also late in the evening time. He said when he shot that shot off into the air, that they didn't even really flinch. Right when he says this, it dawns on me that this might just be a Dogman, because a coyote isn't going to hang around after a 308 goes off. So I tell him, you need to be careful. You're going to try to run something off that doesn't scare easy, and it's going to be your ass, and trust me, I don't want that, and some things you don't want to be your problem. He laughs and looks at me and says, you and I have hunted for many years, and you have been taught by some of the best in Bama, and you taught me, you know as well as me, that I got a good shot. Remember last time we went shooting, we hit 2 leaders from 400 yards, and then you had to show me up by hitting 1 from 600. So come on, don't be so harsh, and don't assume it's those Dogman things. I tell him it takes more than just accuracy to deal with those things. So to move forward and skip the boring parts, I head home, and later that night he calls me freaking out. Can't understand a word he's saying. I tell him, dude, chill. What's your issue? Finally he screams, them damn things you've talked about are here down by the barn. That's when I tell him, turn every light on in the house and outside. Keep Rebel inside. Try to keep your eye on the horse. I'm on my way. After some time passes, I pull up, and when I pull into his driveway, it's about 75 yards long, with small fields on each side, then behind them tree lines, so I'm making my way down the driveway, and as I'm coming up to his house, my headlights catch one on the right side looking from behind the house. I say to myself, God, here we go. So I pull up as close to the front door as I can. I get in my truck and his front door close as possible in case we have to leave and none of us have to run out in the open. So I swing my truck around to where my driver's side door is facing straight at his front door, and his porch is right there. Quickly unload my 3 rifles I brought with me, my 7mm Weatherby, my 340 Weatherby, and my 416 Ruger. I have a 357, but the 340 has more velocity. Yes, bullet grain is smaller, but if anyone knows Weatherbys, especially the Mark 5s, you can't go wrong, especially with velocity. So I unload the truck, guns laid on the kitchen table. My friend is on the couch, white as a sheet of paper, shaking out of control. As soon as I go to try to say something, I hear a loud boom on the back side of the house. Joe then flips out and yells, "Get away from me." I've never seen a side of him like this. I grab his shirt and say, "Joe, you gotta have a grip, man. I know you're scared, I understand, but if you want to get out of this, you're gonna have to get a grip best you can and clear your head. Listen to me and we'll make it out of here. Hopefully this doesn't turn ugly, but your fear is going to attract them. They sense you're flipping your crap, so they're going to try to scare you." He looks at me and says, "Where is Rebel?" And I look around calling Rebel. He's nowhere to be found. Joe runs to the back sliding door and goes to open it. I tell him, "Joe, stop." He's now gone from scared to pissed. He throws open the blinds that are made to cover the sliding door and then throws the door back, porch light on. Is so lucky nothing was there. When he opened the door, he's yelling for Rebel, so I go out with him and begin looking around. I tell him, "Joe, you're gonna have to shut it. You can't be loud." Then I ask, if your work light, we would need to plug it in on the porch and shine it out to the yard. He has one of those Husky LED lights, 7,000 lumens. He goes and gets it. I'm still on the porch looking around, and at this point I have my 7mm with me, and trust me, it will work on these things, especially with the loads I've done. The 7mm has claimed 1, but that's an encounter for another day. But as I'm on the porch looking around, I look to my left, and I see Rebel. Then Joe runs out with the light. I tell him, "Quick, hook it up." I see Rebel, and his light covers 360 degrees and 180-degree tilt. I shine it out in the yard, and off to the left is Rebel, and Rebel has his tail tucked between his legs and is close to the ground, trying to slowly back up. And in front of him, coming out of the tree line, is a brown and black coated Dogman on all fours, staying low, making its way toward Rebel. That's when Joe screams, "Rebel, come here. Leave him alone." And right when Joe does this, it perks up and with its left arm grabs Rebel, and then its right and begins to attack him, holding his head to the ground. All I can hear is Rebel let out this loud squeal. Then nothing. All this happened so fast that by the time I got my gun shouldered, it was dead. Then drags the dog off. Joe's sobbing, at this point emotionally wrecked and pissed as Joe is on his knees. I hear movement and growls coming from the woods. I tell Joe to get out, get up. We're not alone soon. As I say that, to our right comes another one. This one is all black, hard as hell to see at night. As it comes out, it goes from being on all fours to standing on two while still hunched over a little. I say, "Joe, get up now." So he quickly stands up, and I tell him, "Do not run, slowly backstep." And as we do this, it shows its teeth and widens its arms out like it's going to give me a big hug, and then begins to run our way. We haul back into the house. As we get to the porch, we turn around and this thing is running to our right. Runs and hops onto the roof of the house. We make our way into the house, and Joe makes sure every window is closed because this house has 2 stories. When I say this thing ran up onto the roof, I mean it did it like it was a daily routine for it. Grabbed the window trim and made its way all up onto the roof. As we were inside, we hear it on the roof. One thump after another, this thing lets out a howl like I've never heard before, a howl mixed with a woman-like scream. I don't know how else to describe it. And then howls followed with it. We run to the window that's in the kitchen that's facing more toward the driveway than the woods on the other side of it. What we see is 3 more sets of reddish eyes, like a glare kind of red that's faint. Then they split up going in different directions, 1 behind the house, 2 in the front. As it happens, I tell Joe, grab one of the guns. They're trying to flank us. We are probably in for a long night. He's freaking out, saying, don't we need to call the law? And I look at him and say, no, just listen to me. We'll get through this. Just remember, aim for the head and neck area and don't shoot unless we have to make every shot count. As we are sitting in the living room, they begin to bang on all sides of the house, and the one on the roof ran its way back side of the house according to the sounds from the roof. I catch a dark shadow move past the window in the living room. Then the doorknob begins to move, and guess what? The door was left unlocked. Joe runs for the door begins to open. As it opens, I run and dive into the door and slam it shut. We get it shut. The door got open a quarter of the way. I said the whole right side of this thing and quickly lock it. I'm locking it. I hear the deep breathing and gurgling noise. As I'm listening to this, it drags its nails on the door. I swear I hear this thing speak, because I could hear die behind all the deep breathing and gargling noises it was making. That's when I get this overwhelming deep gut feeling of fear I've never felt before. That's when a big slam against the door happens. It hit the door so hard it made a spider web crack in certain areas of the door. Then another smack comes from the window in the kitchen. That's when Joe runs to the window, opens the blind. The brown one was all face in the window. Out of fear, Joe aims the gun. I yell, don't. Before I know it, he fires the gun. All I hear is a yell, howl, like no kind of sound. I tell him, Joe, what's wrong with you? You get any of their scent of the house, you're good as dead. So now, thanks to Joe, we have a window that's open, and now I'm waiting for these things to come in. I grab the flashlight and shine it at the window. I can hear one of them hit. I can hear the one that he hit gasping for air. As I make it to the window, I shine it down at the ground. About 15 to 20 yards is a Dogman slowly making its way back into the woods, with the others right there with it. The others look back with pure evil at this point. I knew we were going to die. My ears are ringing so bad I can't focus. And as they look, him and me, one grabs the dying one. They begin to make their way to the woods. The other 2 are about to make a move, so I take aim at one with my 7mm, shoot it dead in its left eye, drops the other, runs off to the back of the house, down the yard, and off into the woods. This Dogman makes 2 with my 7mm. Don't think for a second I'm proud of this, because I'm not, and if anyone thinks I'm going to take a picture of all of this, you're mistaken. Why, so agents can head here and take me and my friend out? I think you guys are nuts. No recordings or pictures will be taken, but I will say this: if your rats don't get taken care of, then I sure won't mind cleaning up your mess.
And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you, and I to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is still treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.